everybody. Welcome back to the Cougar Cast. In this episode, we're going to be talking about what it means to be a missionary kid, and we're going to have a little special on InterMission since it's coming up. Hello, everybody. I'm Elias Reich.
My name is Olivia Bader.
I'm Lydia Wills.
And I'm Jerry.
So, today, our first question, what do you think of when you hear the word missionary? Jerry.
When I hear the word missionary, I think of the first thing that comes to mind is like spreading the gospel, providing like resources for other people, being a source of help and a source of light to other people that may need it. That's what I think of.
And I know people can be local, but what I think is people serving God in another country.
Usually my first thought is like church, because churches send out like missionary families to go internationally, and so that's the first thing I think of.
For me, I think of like the stereotypical like going out to rural villages, spreading the gospel that way.
Yeah.
That's what comes to my mind.
That makes sense. And to the places that they usually go, so
Yeah.
definitely.
Do you think students can be missionaries too? Because obviously all of our parents are missionaries, but sometimes we get involved in ministry, sometimes not. Maybe it depends on the definition of missionary that we're going off of.
Mm-hmm. I mean, missionaries don't necessarily have to be international. You can be a local missionary, as Lydia said. And so when you're at school, the way that, or even outside of school, if you have extracurriculars, the way that you spread the gospel and that you talk about the Lord outside of school and in school can make you a missionary, especially if you really dedicate yourself to spreading the gospel.
That is so true.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Jerry? What do you think?
I think students can be missionaries. They can definitely like take part in their parents' action, take after their parents, like join them on trips. I don't think like you can never be too young to share God's word.
Do you think it depends on like the ministry?
It can have some impact, but I do think even if you're small, if you're young, you can have an impact.
And to kind of continue that idea about students being missionaries is also, I know my old church in the States, they would send out missionary teams with high school kids to different countries. I know one time they went to Poland, then one time they even just stayed in the States, and they went to Vermont, I think.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So.
Yeah. Well, speaking of missionaries and everything, here in Guatemala, we have something called InterMissions. So does anyone want to kind of explain what that is?
Well, me and Jerry have never been, so let the experts explain.
Well, for me, from last year was my first year, but what I've kind of picked up on it from it, that it's adults will go to conferences or just relax while the kids get to go hang out and have fun, do worship, small groups, messages, and just really just hang around and enjoy each other's company.
Yeah, I definitely think it's seen as like a rest for missionaries who are out on the field constantly, just giving them time away from the worries and the pressures of being a missionary and being able to spend time in solitude with the Lord or with other missionary families so that they have time to meditate on the word and just relax. And so, yeah, but it's a very nice experience, especially because a lot of, families go. It's held at a resort, and it's in Atitlan, which is very, very pretty. But it's great, too, for teenagers because they have, stuff for them, too. They have activities because they have teams that come down, and they kind of host those things. But it's a very fun thing, and I really enjoy it. But, yeah.
Okay.
So speaking about missions, some people think of missions as like going out of your country. So talking about like local missions, for example, like my family, when we were in the States, we were in like a kind of like a red zone in the States. Like where I live here is actually safer than where I lived in the States.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Like, yeah, our neighborhood was pretty dangerous. Obviously we still went out and everything, but it wasn't that dangerous. But it was more dangerous than my neighborhood where I live here, and we would have like block parties and stuff, share Jesus with our neighbors that way. My parents worked at like a clinic within the neighborhood, so also that kind of missions and stuff. So that's an example of local missions. So missions doesn't have to be stereotypically like going to Africa
Exactly.
and
yeah.
like sharing Jesus in like huts and stuff.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
it can be where you are. So
And why do you guys think that it's important for missionaries to gather together and spend time together?
I think it's important because it's a good way to um, share experiences, so that way you're learning from the other people. But I also feel like if, for example, like they witness to other people, like they can all gather together and go and witness to other people. So what Elias said.
Yeah. It's definitely good for like encouragement because
Mhm.
being in the field can be difficult depending, on what you do. If you're working at a medical center or just constantly being around like people who are very, very poor can be very difficult, like mentally. And so I think encouragement is a very big aspect of it. And it's really important for, missionaries to uplift each other. And I think that's a great thing about CAG too, since, a lot of us are CAG students, that it's good that we have, common struggles, common things that we deal with, and so it's very encouraging to have that community.
Gerardo, do you have any opinions on this?
I think it is important for like missionaries to get together to maybe pray for each other, and it helps a lot seeing and talking to other people who may be going through the same things as you. So I do think it is important to kind of get away from the mission field and unite with other people.
and the mission field doesn't just have to include going out to rural communities. It can also include
Absolutely.
within your own house. I've heard it said marriage can be your number one ministry. Well, I'm not married, but being, I guess, especially with my brothers, sometimes it's hard to interact with them, and because they're like annoying. But it can also be just trying to bless them that way. I also go to a soccer practice pretty close here, so that's another way that I could share Jesus, not just on the field, even though you could kind of say that is a part of the mission field. I've also done translating here and there, whatever. So there's a lot of different mission fields, and some people might not see even like school as a mission field,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of different mission fields.
And just as Elias said, where he goes to soccer, he's able to spread the gospel. So are there places that you guys go to often where you could see an opportunity to spread the word?
I think actually a good place, I feel like a good place would be almost anywhere. But for example, youth group, that while I know a lot of the kids there are going to be Christians, but we can share the gospel with them, because if they're hurting, we can use that as an opportunity to encourage them and just show Christ-like love to them.
Absolutely.
I think like similar to Elias, I obviously like play basketball a lot, so there are many times where I go and play with people who may not be Christian, so that grants me an opportunity to like share the word with them. So
Absolutely. And personally for me, I do sound events sometimes, and I work with other people, and there's a lot of people that I've worked with that are not Christians, and so that's been a great opportunity to spread the gospel and to work with people who are not Christians and tell them about the word. So there's always ways that you can find in your life, even not as a missionary per se, that you can spread the word.
What are some simple actions that you could do to show Christ-like love? It doesn't have to be like, I don't want to repeat myself, but like going out
Yeah.
to a rural village, giving water filters or whatever. What are some simple actions that you could do, even at school, to show Christ-like love to others?
just something like simple, just like simply praying for each other, that can go a long way.
Showing kindness even when you don't feel like it and you just want to punch that person in the face.
Oh my!
Exactly.
Yeah, that's kind of real in my house,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I think also just like going out of your way to do things for other people, even again, if you're not in the mood to do it, or if it's not the most convenient thing, it's important to show the love of the Lord through your actions and your words.
You could also, bullying is a real thing in schools, but you could do the opposite of bullying, encouraging people who might be feeling down, stepping up for people who might be bullied, being bullied, stuff like that. Little things that you can do to show Christ-like love.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Definitely.
And growing up as missionaries isn't always the easiest thing. You know, a lot of us move at a very young age. Some of us move maybe while we're older. So, what are some pros and cons of being a missionary kid?
I think some pros. You're obviously growing up in a Christian household, in a very like safe household, and you're also getting to like experience seeing your parents go out and work and share the gospel at an early age. That can be such a blessing. But there are some like cons. Like a lot of missionaries do move and change countries constantly, and that can be like very hard for families, for kids. Being hard to the culture shock, going to another country, going to school in another country in a whole different culture. But I think in the end, it's all part of like God's plan. And
I definitely think that being able to grow up in another country is a huge privilege because you get perspective in many different ways that a lot of people don't get normally, especially if I were to stay in the States when I was younger. I definitely would not have the same perspective that I have now. Although a challenge that I definitely have seen growing up as a missionary kid is kind of being the outcast in some settings, you know, like being the white kid or not necessarily fitting in or standing out a lot in crowds, especially when like you're in Antigua, especially when we were younger, when you know I would get stared at, or there'd be like people on the side of the streets, you know, asking for money who would like pull at me, or sometimes I would get like hit by these people,
Oh my!
and so
Wow.
it was definitely a challenge, and it's something that I have gotten used to. I think that, you know, my mom always asks me, "Do you think it's weird when we get stared out in public?" And I'm like, I've kind of gotten used to it. So there's definitely some difficulties. But what have you seen, Elias?
I think pros and cons for me, just a simple pro is being able to travel, experience new cultures, and most importantly, new foods. I love food.
Yeah.
Guatemalan food is actually pretty good. Um, Even though I like American snacks better, but I do like myself some pepian, some tamales. I like Guatemalan food a lot. I think some cons, especially like I know some missionaries were like literally born in Guatemala. I moved here to Guatemala when I was in third grade, second grade, third grade. That transition. So I already had a lot of friends in the States since I was like super little. I had a lot of family that I left in the States, my cousins. So I think it was hard for me to leave all of those loved ones behind. But then I made a lot of new friends here within my neighborhood, at school. So I think those are like the pros and cons. Another con could potentially be because you're a missionary kid, then you have this, I don't know, expectation to live a more righteous life than others. I don't know. I don't feel that pressure, but I've heard a lot of other missionary kids say that like they have to be the example and they feel that pressure a lot.
Oh yeah.
So,
Sure.
yeah.
No, I've definitely felt that pressure before. I've experienced it of kind of being put on a pedestal, especially, you know, with teams that would come down. I think a lot of families or a lot of people expect you to have like this crazy faith because you grew up in the ministry, you know, that's kind of their assumption. And I think there were times where I would get like asked by adults when I was like a kid, like all these questions about my faith, and I'm like, I don't really know. Like I wasn't very
No
sure.
idea.
I have no idea. And so I definitely understand the feeling of being put on a pedestal, but I think that it's a great experience to be surrounded by the church and by Christians so much because it really helps you develop your faith from a young age to be around that.
Here's another question. Has somebody ever been a missionary to you?
Oh yes, definitely.
How so?
Um, I know just not too long ago I was really hurting about something, and so I just called my friend and started crying and telling her what was going on, and she just listened, and she was very encouraging, and she prayed for me, and at the same time she was praising Jesus
That's
And-
that's incredible.
and saying that he would get me through. So
Yeah. I think for me, it's always people that come down on teams because, especially for me, it's specifically youth teams that come down in the summer, being able to be surrounded by them is really powerful because usually when I'm with the adults, I'm only there for like the banquet at the end of the week or for a few days translating. But for the youth, I'm there with them the whole time. So I see everything that they've seen and I get to experience what they've experienced, make memories with them. And so it's always really moving at the end of the day when like you're kind of having, you know, your get together and having like a recap of the day and just hearing what they have to say, or even like in personal conversations, hearing about people's story, people's faith. It's really, really powerful and it's been very moving to me.
And I feel like it's also a good place for like I don't know for sure since I haven't really been a part of that, but good place for convictions because
Yeah.
seeing this stuff and hearing this stuff is like, okay, maybe this is something I need to change in my life. Like I should be striving to work harder in this. I should be turning away from this.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now that we've kind of established that you don't have to be a missionary kid specifically to do missions, and since we're at school together here, I guess what is one thing that you could do to live on mission this week at school to show God's love to other people here at school? Just like one small thing.
Taking people's prayer requests seriously and not laughing about it and being like, okay, this person is genuinely needing this prayer. So, and just pray over them. And then they might feel like, oh, I know Jesus is with me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also like Bible class is a big thing, and like chapel. Sometimes, you know, we can take that for granted, but really using it like as a time to be able to have discipleship and talk about, you know, prayer requests and pray for others. I think really utilizing that time. And also, as I said earlier, just going on your way to do things for people, even if it's really small, like it really helps to show the love of the Lord through your actions.
Yes, definitely. I agree.
I think for me, one small thing that I could start doing is like encouraging people. Like, oh, good job on the math homework or whatever. Just little small things of encouragement, because I found that for me, when people say small things like that, it actually is encouraging. Even though like when you say it to somebody else, it may seem like a small thing. It actually could be something a lot bigger.
Something as simple as just like listening, like being a good listener. Kind of like what you said, just like being able to like sit down and listen to someone's problems. Sometimes all someone is missing is knowing that there's someone that cares about them and knowing that there's someone able to like just hear their problems. So I think it's a very like underrated skill to just be a good listener.
That's solid. All right. So to close, you don't really have to cross to the other side of the globe to be a missionary. Your mission can start right where you are. And yeah, just go be a light, go be an encouragement to others, and tune in for the next podcast. Thank you.
Thank you.